Hey everybody, my name is Danny. Welcome to our webinar today. Thanks for joining us. I'm the Analyst Relations Manager here at Decisions. And what does that mean? I'm the guy that talks to Gartner and Forrester and Everest and all the different software analyst firms. And I have brought the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Mummert, our lead sales engineer, pre-sales engineer. I brought him here today to talk about how we do risk scoring of our customers with ChatGPT. Now, this is the final installation in a series of our customer lifecycle webinars, but I'll talk about more about that in a second. Before we get started, though, I wanted to take a second and do a little housekeeping and some plugs. So actually, for our Indian friends, we have our next Submerged Deep Dive training. Actually, today is the last day of our current Submerged Deep Dive training event, which is happening here in Virginia Beach today. There's still plenty of customers and our architects and solutions engineers here. Basically, what we do is we get together. We have a foundations class and a master's class, and we talk about use cases and do some training in the product, and we eat some dinner and have a great time. It's a really great event. The next one is coming up April 23rd through the 5th. That's in Hyderabad. And then we're back here at the beach for another Submerge event, May 14th through the 16th. Always a great time to come to the beach, early spring. And then at the end of May, we will be in Stockholm, the 28th and the 30th. So be sure to check out decisions.com/events to learn more. While you're there, go ahead and register for the next webinars that are coming up. So the next one, Thursday the 21st, we have invoice processing with ChatGPT. Tuesday the 26th, we'll be covering accelerating use cases with the solutions team. And then on the 28th, we'll be featuring Quadrant Solutions and their study that we were featured in last year as a leader in the digital decisioning platform space. You can get access to that report here at the link below, or on our website page. If you just scroll to the very bottom is where all the analyst stuff is, and that's what I do. So check that out for sure. Now, we've got a bunch of people from Decisions on here, as well as other folks. So you don't have to wait. If you have a question about the platform as we get into the demonstration, don't hold it. Just go ahead and pop it into chat, and one of our folks will be sure to answer it for you. Few things that we're going to go over today. So this is the final in our series on the customer lifecycle, and specifically, we're examining the customer lifecycle of our customers. How we reach our potential customers, how we acquire them as customers, convert them to sales, retain those customers, and keep them loyal and happy so they don't churn and they keep coming back for more solution. This is a kind of a graphic that shows what that customer lifecycle looks like at Decisions, right? How marketing and sales reach and acquire new customers and convert them into sales. And then our customer support, our client success and account manager folks take those relationships and build on them so we have long-lasting relationships with our clients. These, as I said, this was a series of webinars that we've done, and today is the last one. But as you can see by the ones listed here in red, these are the ones that are available on demand on our website right now that you can go and download and watch to get caught up on the series. The last two, we should have those up in a matter of days. So thanks for all your attention during the housekeeping parts. Let me tell you a little bit about Decisions. Decisions is a no-code software development tool that allows you to build complex software quickly. It comes with these features here, and I'll talk a little bit about each one. The first element of Decisions is our rules engine. It's an enterprise-class rules engine that's capable of running millions of transactions a day across thousands of rules. Not simple statement rules, but using Boolean logic, but truth tables and matrix rules and rule sets and rule chains. We have about 8 different types of rules that, as long as you can write a sentence, or fill out a spreadsheet, you're fully qualified to build the logic for any enterprise class application. The second element is our workflow manager. If you're familiar with platforms like Visio or Lucidchart, it's a very similar build experience. Windows toolbar across the top, but the magic is in the toolbar on the left-hand side of our Designer Studio, where we've built 5,000 custom code steps that a user simply drags and drops onto a canvas to assemble applications. The platform is self-validating, giving you feedback as you're building, and you can debug those applications right there in the same studio without compiling code because there's no code. The fourth element is process mining. We give you the tools to continually refine, iterate, and optimize the processes that you build by identifying bottlenecks or the least expected path in an application or a process that occurs using process mining. The fourth element is our integration layer. Decisions comes with 70 or so pre-built modules for the most common business applications out there right out of the bat. So things like Salesforce, SAP, Dynamics, Office 365, Azure, AWS, we come with pre-built connectors for those. But even more importantly, we're an open API platform, so we can talk to any modern software application system. And then finally, we become the front-end designer. So we give you the tools to build unique customer experiences, user interfaces through things like web pages, dashboards, portals, reports, forms, stuff like that. Listed to the left are the three main automation patterns that we fulfill. And the first one is that business rules or decisioning application. The rules engine gives you a place to centralize business logic and then expose that logic to business users to edit and maintain using graphical design tools. And that gets the logic for these applications out of stored procedures or web pages or custom code or your employees' heads and puts it in a place where you can easily change it and maintain it without diving into code. For example, Roche Genentech is using our rules engine specifically around formatting and enhancing clinical trial lab data across all their global trials. The next use case is what we call extend and expand. It's really common when we work with a customer that already have some major out-of-the-box projects that need to be part of their automation solution. It could be CRMs or ERPs, databases, or other products that are built to handle part of that process. And Decisions is designed to integrate with these existing out-of-the-box solutions and automate the special processes that these systems don't do well. Things like special pricing or packaging, shipping, human-in-the-loop approval processes. And we have several ways of doing that by integrating with your existing system landscape. The first is that the integrations that I mentioned earlier, but also that open API layer allows us to talk literally to any system. REST, SOAP, webhooks, XML, you name it, we provide a means to connect all the disparate systems in your environment. Taking the previous example a little bit further, we often act as an orchestration layer between different applications. If you have several applications that you have users and data in, you can use Decisions as kind of a middleware to bring data together in from one application to trigger an activity for a user in another application, or even populate an outcome in yet another. Our most common use case is to act as an orchestration layer between these various software applications or services, and then engage end users in workflows that cross those application boundaries. For example, Integrity Life uses Decisions to integrate with their CRM system, with their policy administration, and their accounting system, and they've completely built their claims processing off of Decisions. Thanks for paying attention to me providing a brief description of the platform. We're almost to the good stuff, but really the best way to learn about Decisions outside of these webinars, of course, which are very informative, is to sign up for a demo with one of our sales engineers and let them show you how this technology can help you do work better, faster, and with less human error. Just reach out to us at sales@decisions.com or post in the chat and we'll have someone follow up with you quickly. So our Decisions OpenAI module was published in Q2 of 2023. And As I mentioned before, it's just available in our modules in the Decisions platform, like all of the other integrations that we have. By installing this module, it'll give you all the code steps necessary to be able to leverage the ChatGPT OpenAI large language model, use the outputs of it in workflows, and to actually get work done. So today we're going to talk specifically about risk scoring your customers with ChatGPT. And when we think about a risk scoring, why are we want to risk score? Because getting a new customer costs 5 to 25 times more than it does to keep an existing customer. So we have a lot of data in all of the different systems that we use here in Decisions, but bringing it together and building a score so we had an accurate picture of how all of our clients were doing was a real challenge for us. And so the different data points that go into our risk score are listed here, like our data since we last talked to them, an overall sentiment score, the number of use cases that client might have in production, and then customer success metrics like the NPS score, a health score, engagement score, things like that. All of that data Decisions was siloed off in all of these different systems. So we decided that we needed to leverage ChatGPT specifically to help us be able to come to an accurate score of each one of these clients. We don't want them to churn. We want them to stay customers for ours for a really long time. So let's use the data that we have to make sure that we're addressing their needs, that they're getting the best value from the platform. And this is just a high-level slide that shows kind of the process that Frank is getting ready to show to you. So the different data points we're pulling from Salesforce opportunities. We're formatting those into CSVs, and then we're pushing a series of bots to conduct the analysis. And then we're putting everything into an Excel doc and then summarizing it, comparing those data points over time, and then orchestrating the communications of those findings to the relevant people inside of our organization to make sure that we can address customers that are at risk of leaving. Frankie, you ready to kind of show us what that looks like?
All right. Hi, everyone. For the benefit of anyone showing up late, my name is Frank Mumbert, and I'm a pre-sales engineer with Decisions. I get to take the existing Decisions platform and use it to make fun new tools and applications that hopefully become widely available to our customers and to our own endeavors someday. Currently, we're exploring what leveraging the recent advances in artificial intelligence and large language models like ChatGPT can offer up. Previous webinars talked about customer onboarding and capturing requirements and initial customer meetings, a whole bunch of different things. Like Danny said, today we're going to be talking about using ChatGPT to summarize client meetings based on call transcripts to pull out sentiment and action items. And we're going to combine that with some other processes that are running to come up with a holistic picture of how that particular client engagement is going. But first, let's talk about some quick setup here. If you are a Decisions customer or will soon become one, you may ask yourself, does the product come out of the box ready to integrate with ChatGPT? The answer is yes, as was stated in the slideshow, as mentioned before. You just have to do one thing first. We have in our included modules an entry for OpenAI. You just add this to your environment and it unlocks a whole toolbox of flow steps that you can use to help you interface with ChatGPT. So then that's it. You're good to go. And with that bit of work out of the way, let's look at what we can do with it. Here I'm showing you a simple dashboard for this demo that I'm going to use to kick off our process. I'll walk you through the process end to end from a user perspective, and then we'll dig into the logic itself, and I'll show you how it was accomplished. So let's get started here. The first thing I'm going to do, neat. We're going to refresh this. Oh, here we go. A little bit of latency here on my own laptop. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a customer and I'm going to let it start digesting that. So here's a list of customers that we have. Actually, these are all fake customers, but we'll go ahead and kick this off here. So right now, ChatGPT is being given 2 calls to look at and summarize. one from before the client was a customer and was still in our pre-sales pipeline, and one from after they became a customer and moved to our post-sales pipeline. As a little bit of a clarification for the demo, the companies you saw on that drop-down list were fictional. However, we added a little bit of logic that isn't 100% necessary in the final version of this. When given a fake name, this demo version has a truth table to tell it to go get data from a real customer account, but to swap out any mention of the name with this fake company that I selected, or to redact any identifying information. We love giving these webinars, but we also love client anonymity for public presentations. So you don't need to do that part for your own projects necessarily. So after some initial processing, it shows us this form. We can use this to confirm that, yeah, the summaries look right and the client's information looks accurate. In our case, though, it's slightly purposefully inaccurate. Again, we're going for anonymity. But before moving on to the next steps of the process, we really need to evaluate these overall sentiment summaries. We are asking ChatGPT to analyze the call transcripts and look for keywords to determine how satisfied the client is. And if I am 100% honest, this is maybe the most error-prone part of this process that we all need to be just be aware of it. We're essentially asking a robot to tell us how everyone feels. And I thought maybe this wasn't the best use of its talents, but some research showed that it's right about as often as a software developer is right when we ask them to summarize the sentiment of a meeting. So its error rate in gauging human emotion isn't that far off from some humans' ability to gauge human emotion. The caution here is if any meeting participants are particularly sarcastic. If, for an example from real life, I am speaking with a client and things are going so well that the only thing wrong is that my laptop briefly restarted itself. If the client responds in a humorous manner of, "Oh no, that's terrible, let's cancel the project," the client and I may have a good laugh about that. But the sentiment analysis will miss the sarcasm and say the client wants to cancel the project. So if you use ChatGPT to summarize data and you have particularly humorous or sarcastic people on your calls, just make sure to quickly double check anything involving sentiment or emotional analysis. If they don't look right, we have a lovely retry button. You can ask it to run it again. We're going to go ahead and approve this. Hit the submit button, and it will now do some quick score processing and give us our process summary. This is a summary of the data collected from what will appear on our later artifacts. We have the ability to download this as a PDF, and we have the ability to send this off in the body of an email. I'll show you the results of both of those right now. Let's go ahead and download this, and I will fire off the email. So, looking here, refresh. We can see the email. It has a lot of the same information that we saw in the form just a moment ago. It's just formatted in a way to make it more appropriate for this email presentation. This was sent out in an email template that adds headers and footers, which you could set up to be branded with your own company's colors or iconography. To dig into the information in a little bit more depth, let's actually take a look at the PDF. So this is what Decisions actually did. We will dive into the build itself and Decisions in just a few moments, but I wanted to point out some landmarks to look out for while we're there. What we're looking at right now is an amalgamation of data from multiple sources: ChatGPT, Salesforce, Gong call transcripts, our own proprietary data processes, what have you. Decisions is acting as an orchestration layer between all of those disparate services to unify the information into a single reference document. The first chunk, this chunk up here, company name, project ID, contact date, and the Decisions employees attached to the account, all of that is pulled from Salesforce. Decisions took the project ID and gathered up all that data. Decisions then did one extra step, which was anonymizing the data by swapping out the client's real name with our fake name, Alpha Ratings LLC. So except for that one small tweak, all of this information in this heading section, it's pulled straight from Salesforce. In the next section, the risk level of value. This is calculated by combining scoring values from a couple of different sources. Our customer, to give you kind of a peek here into how Decisions operates, our customer success team keeps a running tally of project and client health that they store in Salesforce. I got permission to show some provisional iteration of what that rubric looks like. Now, here it is. This is a little bit of a living document as the scoring values get dialed in, but you can see some of the information that they would save in Salesforce almost as plain text. So there would be an entry for notes, and they would say the engagement section, a champion. Do they have at least one champion? If so, we're going to give their account 2 points. If they have no client champion, we're going to deduct a point. If they're doing well, they're going to get higher scores on things. So, hey, their project is in the green, we're going to give them 2 points. If it's red, we're going to give them -8. And it's just generally tracking the overall health of the project for their own reference, using their own numbers, their own scoring metrics. And if I didn't say it before, I'll say it again, or I'll say it for the first time now. The higher numbers indicate a better outlook on how that particular client is doing. So I can scroll down, I can show you some of these. But this is information that we're stored in Salesforce, and we're interested in pulling out and getting a read on. We have, let me go over here. We have a couple of additional items we'd like tallied in addition to those. That wasn't an exhaustive list. So things like the client's tone across various meetings, how much decisions is costing our customer compared to their yearly revenue, if they belong to industries that have a history of ease or difficulty, things like that. So our extra items as a whole are going to be half the score. And that's going to be combined with that customer success rubric values, which are going to be the other half. The flow logic then runs that score through a truth table to deobfuscate what that score means. It doesn't do us a whole lot of good right here. It doesn't do us a whole lot of good to say a client score is, let's say, 11.3 if there's no context if that's a good score or not, or if that's a measure of how well they're doing or maybe how unhappy they are. So the truth table, I can show you in a little bit, converts the numeric ranges of that score and to return it into plain language strings. In this case, after the score tabulations are done, it was determined that the client's current state fell in the range of low risk. So that's what it put here. The goal is just getting an easy to read snapshot of that moment in the client's experience. We could totally configure this to show more granular data or to reveal the values that source that conclusion. But now for our interest, we just want to focus on the net result of that logic. Next up, the project status summary comes from one of a couple of sources of truth based on the status. If the project is still not in development, Salesforce will give us our update. If we check in Salesforce and it comes back with one of the status values indicating that the project is in development, and we're the ones working on it, we will follow up by pinging our internal project management service and getting their values. In this case, the project manager has said that the project is in the green. We captured that and we added it to the summary. The next few items are metrics that different departments and subject matter experts have identified as a little predictive regarding the ultimate satisfaction of a decisions customer. The sentiment analysis score here, this is our big ChatGPT utilization for this project. It's actually used in 2 places here, but this is the big one. We're going to put together a prompt asking ChatGPT to take some call transcripts we provide and to process them looking for positive or negative sentiment landmarks. Specifically, we ask it to evaluate tone, choice of words, and the surrounding context, looking for indicators of interest, enthusiasm, or doubt or disinterest. We have it do that for several different calls from different parts of the process, both pre and post sales, as you saw, to give us a score for each transcript. Decisions then averages the scores to give us our value seen here. Now, I will admit for our webinar demo purposes, we limited the number of transcripts to 1 pre-sales and 1 post-sales. As you can imagine, ChatGPT analyzing these calls is not the quickest process. Each one takes 15, 20 seconds. There may be value for other processes of this application. I'm sorry, maybe value for other applications of this process to pull just a sample of calls and not the entire data set for processing, but we definitely want to keep our data set small during a live demo like this. I can show you the actual prompt sent to ChatGPT when we get into the build. Next up is day since last contact. It is my understanding that when our sales representatives make contact with the customer, they log it as an event in Salesforce. So for this, decisions pulls all of the contact events from Salesforce for this customer and arranges them in a way that we can figure out which one is most recent. Then we use decisions to calculate the number of days that have happened since that last contact and as the days slip by, customers have shown a likelihood, uh, a lower likelihood of joining up with decisions. So we want to make sure that none of our leads are needlessly lost just because we fell out of contact. The last piece we're measuring in this section is exactly how much decisions is or will cost a customer as a percentage of their yearly revenue. The yearly revenue data is collected from the customer during the initial contact phases just to see what services we could offer without undue strain on our customer's bottom line before our automation starts saving them money. The higher the number this is, the greater risk the customer is taking on, not just with us, but with any similar business automation service. Knowing this number helps us steer the conversations and offerings to real, obtainable goals and mitigate any risks that would come from financial concerns or non-recommended feature sales. I'm still syncing up with our experts to determine what exactly the good/bad line is. So this number doesn't get an interpretive value like the risk level did. We're just going to leave it as a percentage as is and let the people using this report decide how to advance based on it. Below this lovely blue line here, we start getting into future considerations. Once decisions has been adopted by a customer, we can deliver even more value by completing more project engagements with them. As such, it's critical we begin to identify multiple use cases that we could work on brainstorming and scoping out. This is our second use of ChatGPT in this project. While it was going through the call transcripts looking to interpret the sentiment of the calls, we also prompted it to flag any other use cases that the client brought up. Did they mention data integrations, or did they mention something like process mining? We ask it just to capture all of those potential leads and add them here. The goal is to use these as topics of conversations in future meetings to find new ways we can help our customers. Excuse me. The second to the last item is our suggested next steps. Fortunately, our teams already have playbooks for guidance, so it's super simple to suggest plans of action. In this case, since the project and customer are in a good place, it's suggesting to move forward with the plans outlined in our green playbook strategy. The different playbooks are going to guide our team to do different things with increasing, let's say, assertiveness. These may be action items like reaching out to the senior most stakeholder on the project for a check-in, emailing a supplemental offer to a prescribed point of contact, or in the case of maybe things are not going well, calling an all-hands meeting to discuss risk mitigation and strategies. The last item there is to help our senior project coordinators and such who may receive many of these analyses over the average week. In this case, I just took the first meeting summary ChatGPT came up with, and I posted it here to help jog the memory of whomever is reading. We have a lot of projects in flight at any given time, and we want to make sure the proper context is provided to the reader. You could put anything here you like. I wanted to point out that this field is not included in the email body, just to keep the presentation of this information a little bit more trimmed down. If someone is interested in getting a little bit more involved, the PDF has appropriately a little bit more contextual information available. Moreover, I did this to illustrate that it's entirely possible to take the same information coming from our earlier processes and cater that information to the different delivery media. Emails should totally be shorter, and full documents can be expected to have more information. We can pick and choose as we like for the different delivery presentations. So with that covered, I'm going to go back to my dashboard, and I'm going to click the button to launch into the Decision Studio. And we're going to go into our main flow that covers the entirety of this process. And as you can see, from a high conceptual level, there's not a lot of complicated things going on. It's primarily done in just a few logical processes. First, we allow the user to pick a client. Next, we pull some data from a few spots and send it off to ChatGPT for processing. The state after that takes the data and presents it to the user so that they can confirm that, yes, indeed, that was the client account I was hoping to process. And the meeting summaries ChatGPT came back with look correct. If the meeting summaries weren't quite right, you saw that retry button. We can loop back and ask ChatGPT to try again. And once everything is good, we can move to the logic that does all of our math and scoring. And then lastly, we compile that information in our various documentation presentations and deliver it to the user. If you'd like to add a step after this to automatically save the results of this process to a database, you absolutely can. You can even change what kicks off this process. If you'd rather, instead of a form popping up, it's integrated into a different presentation. You have plenty of options of how to start and stop this process. I'm going to focus on right now what are maybe the most interesting steps in this process. Yeah, the first step shows a form, and that's not particularly interesting. So let's skip ahead to the ChatGPT interaction here. Specifically, I am going to show you the prompt that we send ChatGPT ahead of the call transcripts. So these are three things. We're getting our sentiment analysis, we're getting summaries of the calls, and we're trying to identify those use cases. So let's look at the prompt where we're asking for the sentiment analysis. And that is on the input of this step right here. So this is the text that we send off to ChatGPT, prefacing the transcript that will get appended to this as we move on into later steps of this process. But the first thing we do is we're outlining for ChatGPT how they should be behaving. Please act as a top-tier market research, an analyst at a top-tier market research firm, and pretend that you're a graduate of Harvard Business School. We want that kind of frames the returns in a way, and the way it processes the data to have a certain vocabulary level and a certain refinement to its delivery. We want it to output just two values here. We're just looking for sentiment analysis, and we're looking for the sentiment analysis to also have a score. And these are the instructions that we get into. And we start asking it during the sentiment analysis, hey, we're going to give you a transcript, and we want you to go through, and we want you to look for indicators of interest, enthusiasm, doubt, or disinterest. Evaluate everything throughout the call. Consider tone, choice of words, and the context of the statements. And we're going to ask it to assign a score, which will get mapped in the second part of this. But we outline what the score values may mean as it's trying to determine what those scores are. So like a 5, they're very interested. They're very excited about the product and service. A 3, yeah, they're somewhat interested, but they show some hesitation or neutrality. And then there's, of course, the 1, the customer, they're being totally negative. They have no interest in this, and they are indicating a potential for no sale. And then we ask them for a detailed analysis and justification for that score, which popped up on that form that we first saw. We don't want that number in that score because that's going to be a separate value. But I had to add an extra little thing here for our demo purposes. This wouldn't be in the live version of this. Just, hey, all those proper names, please replace them with the word redacted. And I believe if we look at it, yeah, it replaced all the words with redacted. So that's fantastic. That's, again, to protect. This is real client data from a real client that we have. And I did not want their information exposed during this call. Or sorry, this demo without their permission. So we're going to just redact all that information. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, hey, when you were determining that score up there, please go ahead and map it to this property, sentiment analysis score. And the last things that we're asking it to do are, please present this in a JSON format. Please do not go outside the JSON format. And then we start with the meeting transcript is as follows. And like I said, that's a separate file, and that's going to get appended to this so that it's just one big block of text that we send off to ChatGPT and it processes. The other 2 prompts are much easier, a little bit shorter. We don't have to tell it how to score things, so these are a little bit less. But we're asking it basically start off the same way, business school graduate and such. And all we're looking for is a summary, and all we're doing is please provide us a summary of what that call was. And that's actually something ChatGPT is actually really good at. Again, we add the caveat, please use the word redacted over proper names. And then the last bit is the same JSON formatting. Don't leave the JSON formatting. The meeting transcript is as follows. And if you can probably guess what the use cases look like at this point, you all are experts. Hey, you're a Harvard Business School graduate again. We're just looking for use cases. Just go through and figure out using business user friendly language. Anytime somebody mentions something that, well, it sounds like something they would like to have or something that they may have for future consideration, please put those together in a single string and don't bullet them because it messes up later formatting. Just leave them as a comma delineated list. That's fine. And again, JSON format. We're going to do some JSON deserializing later, so please keep that format. Do not exit out of it. The meeting transcript is as follows. I'm not going to show you the meeting transcripts because pre ChatGPT working with them, they're going to have client information on them, but it gets just added to the end of that prompt. So with that reviewed, let's take a look at the logic toward the end of the process that calculates the risk score. Don't save. We're going to go here. This is the step that showed that form to us. Like, hey, is that the right form you wanted to see? We're going to go to the processing and scoring part now. So while we have the customer success management numbers, remember that rubric? We pulled it from Salesforce. We added those numbers up together. We have that number coming into this flow. We need to tabulate our scores from the other values that we collected. And for that, I'm going to show you this rule set. In our case, we're just grabbing 3 properties and we're assigning them risk scores based on their values. I expect there will be more of these in the future, but for right now, we're keeping it simple and we're sticking with these 3. The 3 are the sentiment analysis score, the number of future use cases we found, and the last time we reached out to the client. So I'll go ahead and I'll open up this last one here, the last time we reached out to the client, because it's pretty easy to adjust, but these are all very similar. You can see here from the last reach out date, we assign a score with a higher score for a longer interval to reflect that it's a riskier situation. Scores are from 25 to 75 for all of these in this rule set. They're pretty arbitrary at this moment, but the thinking was this could allow us to add higher and lower entries, and maybe we wouldn't have to rework the whole table. Maybe that's just wishful thinking, but if we do have to just adjust the existing values, it's not that difficult. We also do have a no match category granting 100 points. The most likely culprit in these cases is that something didn't get documented. Maybe an event wasn't cataloged. The project may actually be going well, but the missing documentation is a risk that we don't want to take, and we need to adjust the score accordingly. The final version of this will probably also include a note on that final report that the score may be higher than it should be because whatever property was missing from these data calculations, and maybe that should be reviewed. All of the rules here are like that. All the rules in this rule set are like that. So like, if you look at the number of use cases, we're assigning point values. And the flow up here is just averaging out those values so that they can be used in the final calculations. So speaking of that, we're going to go ahead and pop up back to the parent flow for this. Let's take a look at a flow step that doesn't come up very often that we're going to use to consolidate our scores, the CSM scores and those scores that we just got out of that rule table. This is our dynamic expression evaluator. We have a bunch of individual steps for singular mathematical operations like add and divide. If you want a complicated mathematical evaluation and don't want to use separate flow steps for each part of the process, you can simply write the expression here in this single flow step. You just need to remember your order of operations, and you may notice all the parentheses. Those may be overkill, but I just want to make sure it was doing it correctly. I wanted to be safe. So we're multiplying the 2 scores, the CSM score and the score we got from the rule set. And we're just dividing by 2 to average it. You may notice this -1 over here that we're multiplying by. Let me explain. This is because of a unique complication I ran into during the building of this tool. Remember how I mentioned that we were taking information from our customer success management team and correlating it with some extra data values outside the purview in that rule set? Well, when I tried to reconcile the 2 data values, I realized that the CSM numbers measure how well the project is going, and the other values from the rule set measured how much risk there was, basically the opposite of how well the project was going. So I have to multiply one of these values by -1 to give what they're measuring parity. After swapping them so they measure their dynamics in the same way, higher score is higher risk, that's when I average them. Then, this last little bit here, because the cost of decisions compared to our customers' yearly revenue is so important, I have added that as a scalar value. In this case, multiplying against the average. If our cost is less than 1% of their revenue, and thus a pretty low risk, the total score will go down. And if it's over 1%, it will go up. For example, if the net average score after all of that processing turns out to be 25, if our cost is 1% of their total revenue, that will keep the score at 25. We're multiplying by 1. A 2% cost will double that score up to 50. And anything less than one, like half a percent, would half the score down to 12.5, meaning it's less risky, it's safer. We're still dialing in the math on it, but you can see how it all comes together to get to the final score. That final score is then fed into this truth table. You remember how when we looked at the final sheet and it said it was low risk or it would be medium risk or high risk, instead of actually putting a number there, this is that truth table. We're going to go ahead and take a look at it. So the score gets fed into this table and it gets converted into a plain string interpretation. This is another place that'll get tweaked as development continues. The number ranges will probably change and more categorization values will get added. But that's where the risk score analysis conclusion is set. I do want to point out, though, that the base score, remember when I was talking about the example, if it was originally 25, but had to get multiplied by 2 because we were 2% of that company's annual revenue. If it gets scaled from 25 to 50 because of the cost of decisions, that would bring the score from a low risk to a medium risk, and that would change our playbook strategy. We would have a different way of approaching that. We would, instead of using the items outlined in our green playbook, we would use our yellow playbook. So we're going to exit back to the main flow here. And those parts are really the most interesting or unique parts of this process that are worth mentioning. Everything else is pretty much decisions, pulling data, working it, and delivering the results. Decisions serving as the orchestration layer between all those different data repositories and the end user data that gives analytics and even suggests courses of actions. This is just one of the things that it does best. It just works. So having shown you all of that, let's kind of start to wrap this up. So in conclusion, I want to focus on what I hope we've been demonstrating with our webinars. The processes we've shown, in this case, going through old calls to determine the client's sentiments or to grab new use cases or to calculate how likely it is that a customer will be satisfied with our offerings. All of this could absolutely be done manually, and it will probably be terrible. Either the final reporting will have errors, or the employee tasked with doing it will get burned out, or both. I hope you ask yourself as a company, how much business could we lose, or how many expenses could we incur if we miss potential action items in our calls? How much revenue will we miss out on if we don't identify bespoke opportunities to deliver value to our clients? Tools like this, the automation of risk scoring, helps identify not only the pitfalls of chances lost, but also the prospect of amazing wins that might be lost due to human error if done manually. This system helps identify ways one business can help another, and in doing so, they can both achieve success. It becomes the path of mutually assured prosperity. And I think that's pretty neat. I want to thank you all for attending, and I hope you come away from this considering all the incredible possibilities that this might inspire. Danny, back to you, bud.
Thanks, man. I think when I think about this process of decisions, Frank, prior to us building this tool, this was a manual process. And I think there is all the things, all the considerations that you mentioned. But another one is that before we actually based our evaluations on where our customers were in their journey with us, was all based on conjecture and feelings, right? Oh, I feel this customer is in a good place. I talk to them and they're happy, but we're surrounded by all of this data and all of these disparate systems about our customers. We needed a way to be able to tie it all together and base it in fact and data instead of conjecture and feelings. That has really been the core value for us in this particular tool. And another great demonstration of how we're able to orchestrate and unlock those silos of data using the decisions platform, and then leveraging ChatGPT and other large language models that we're currently researching to actually get work done, to actually make something or move something along a process. Not just like boil the ocean or make, music videos of your cat on the moon, to use it to actually get work done. And I think that's so critical. Again, check us out at drop a quick email to sales@decisions.com if you're interested in taking a demo. Also, just another quick plug for some of the events coming up. Our next webinar is next week. We're actually using ChatGPT to process invoices. Every company has an invoice problem. And it's the processing of them always results in human error and missed opportunities. So check us out on the 21st at 1, same time, same bat channel. And check us out at decisions.com/events. Maybe you're interested in checking out one of our live Submerged training events. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us from wherever you are in the world. Have a fantastic day. Thanks, Frank. Great job, buddy.
Hey, have a good one.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.